Mistress Vania Changes Jobs, Episode 15. When Mistress Vania arrived in the cellar, her latex suit shone like the paintwork on a new sports car. Bored with black, she had decided on red for a change. Riko was dressed very much like a beautician at a day spa. The contrast between the two confused Roger. Usually, he used their mode of dress as an indicator of what might happen next. Initially, he had been cold. However, over time he had adjusted to being slightly damp, mostly naked, and lying on a cold tiled floor. "Being cold will help you burn more calories," explained Mistress Vania. She said this as though she was recommending the benefits of eating fresh fruit and vegetables. "I think I understand, sort of," began Roger. "You don't want my kidney or money. You want to use your dominatrix ways to make me thin." "Not just to make you thin," explained Mistress Vania. "Make you thin and make you like it. To stop you from going back to your old ways. Stop you from getting fat again in a month. I can change the way people view themselves by domination, humiliation, and punishment. I've always done this more generally with my clients. Now I want to apply it specifically to a given problem, obesity, and see if I can achieve the same results. Wholesale behavioral change. Food is the new sensuality. In my old work, new avenues have been exhausted. At a party, you can say you pay a dominatrix female a week's salary to strip you naked, cover you in beef gravy, and spank you with a life-size rubber raccoon. No one will think worse of you. They'll just nod wisely. I blame the internet. However, go to the same party when you are severely overweight, and you'll be treated like a heretic in the 15th century Spain. Making fat people thin is the greatest challenge I have ever undertaken. It is a new form of domination, and I shall be the pioneer in this new territory." "Cool," said Roger. "That means I will have the most ripped body of my life, and I'll get lots of women." "Not even I can make that happen," said Mistress Vania. "You are not supposed to think it's cool. You are supposed to be intimidated. Besides, your personality is as much a problem as your weight. Becoming thin won't make you interesting to women." "Well, maybe I can work on that later," said Roger. "What's in the bag?" Roger was referring to a bag that Riko had brought with her. He had not noticed it previously. "Never mind that," said Mistress Vania, circling Roger, kicking the heavy silver chain with her black-laced knee-high boots. "The cornerstone in my approach is to say cruel things with calculating and deliberate punishment. Punish the mind as well as the body. I had hoped this would make an impression on you. It has not. You are a completely different kind of beast, and let me assure you, you are beastly, tremendously so. Human beings appear irrational, but this is just the low-level subsystem, the old primitive wiring. There are the old evolutionary behaviors that make sense 1,000 years ago, but now outmoded and conflicting with our modern lives. If you understand these older systems, people are not irrational at all. They are simply reverting back to ancient behaviors that no longer work." "What's in the bag?" persisted Roger with a playful smile. Roger was not being intimidated in the way Mistress Vania would have liked. Her natural reaction was to whip him or have Riko develop a particularly painful combination of knots and bindings. However, this had failed in the past, and Mistress Vania was never one to persist with any strategy that was clearly not working. She had to try something new. "We are going to give you a mineral wrap," said Mistress Vania, as Riko took coils of bindings and a large jar from the bag. Riko saw it on YouTube as a special presentation infomercial. As a rope master, the application of bandages to the entire body appealed to her. The wrappings or bandages were permeated and imbued with a mineral clay from the ocean floor. In preparation, Riko took a tape measure and measured various parts of Roger's body. The circumference of his upper and lower arms, legs and waist were called out by Riko and recorded on paper by Mistress Vania. These were the before measurements. The whole process would be repeated after the mineral wrap was complete. Then its reducing effects could be calculated and noted. Roger felt like he was being measured for his suit. He was not the sort of person to have his own tailor, but he had seen it on television and in movies. As before, the level of attention focused on him made Roger feel important. It did not matter if it was cruel or kind. Roger was experiencing something similar to what Mistress Vania's old paying clients already knew. It was a thrill that someone as impressive as Mistress Vania would take the time to even notice them. For her to focus on someone exclusively for more than a few minutes was an intoxicating and addictive experience for anyone. Roger was made to stand with his legs astride and his arms out horizontally. The wrapping and the mineral clay were combined. Roger took on the form of an Egyptian mummy. Riko started wrapping at Roger's ankles and worked her way upwards. "What about the underwear?" said Riko to Mistress Vania. "Can we take them off?" Riko had scissors in hand. Roger looked worried, from Riko to Mistress Vania and back again. "No," said Mistress Vania with a deadpan expression. "This process is supposed to have a reducing effect. We must be careful. Some members are already so small that they may be reduced to nothing at all. Therefore, the underwear should remain on." Riko put down the scissors and continued to wrap Roger's stomach and chest up to his armpits. "His body is bigger than the skinny woman in the infomercial," said Mistress Vania. "I am surprised we have enough bandages." "I ordered 3 sets," said Riko. "He is the big one. He has the body of 3 infomercial women combined." "That was very sensible," said Mistress Vania, stepping 2 paces back to look at Roger, now his arms were complete. "You will remain like this for 30 minutes. Then we will remove the wrappings and measure you again." "This is like a health spa," said Roger happily. "If I was paying for it myself, it would cost a fortune." "Unfortunately, you may have a point," said Mistress Vania. "This is the most undominatrix thing I have ever done. Riko, do you think beating him will interrupt the pulling out of the toxins and impurities from the dermal layer?" "It may accelerate the process," said Riko, handing Mistress Vania a wooden paddle. Mistress Vania struck Roger firmly across the buttocks. Rather than the usual smacking sound of a slap, the blow produced a dull, indistinct noise. Wood-on bandages gave a different sound, and one that Mistress Vania did not like. She shrugged and handed the paddle back to Riko, who wound up and swung the bat like a baseball player. Still the same dull sound resulted. It was slightly louder, but no real improvement. "Do your worst, ladies," said Roger. "My ass is covered, along with the rest of me." "Your head isn't covered," pointed out Mistress Vania, before turning to Riko. "It's just not the same. You don't see the welts, the red marks, or contrasting stripes. It's, I don't know." "It's pointless," said Riko sadly. "Yes," said Mistress Vania, slowly drawing out the words. "Take away the pain, and it is completely pointless." Amanda was usually in command of her emotions and feelings, so she was surprised when, sitting in the office, she was overcome with a compulsion to find out what was behind the locked door in her house. She had purchased the hacksaw, with a view to using it on the lock some time later. Her search for Roger had hit a brick wall. Roger's friend Hank had been helpful and enthusiastic, yet, in the great tradition of the Internet, Hank knew more about Roger's online persona than he did about Roger, the real-life person. Very quickly, it had become apparent that Hank had given all the insight he had available. So, with nothing better to do, Amanda dwelt on the locked door and its padlock. Frustrated, she put her laptop in her bag and left the office, locking the door behind her. Within 15 minutes, she was in the house, sawing away at the lock. Quickly, she appreciated the practical problems. When a padlock is on a door, the angle is awkward, and holding the lock tight and still against the movement of the saw is also difficult. After 10 minutes of sawing, Amanda's impression on the lock was very disappointing. She turned her attention to the latch. She did not want to damage the latch. It was fastened with screws that would only screw one way. Annoyed, she threw the hacksaw on the ground. Walking about in circles, she tried to find a decorous way to explode. This was beyond her, and she kicked the door with all her force. The door was old, heavy, impervious to the feet of journalists. Amanda hopped on one foot and cursed at the door and Captain Shufti generally. She did not want to admit it, but Captain Shufti was getting to her. It was creeping into her subconscious and affecting her mind. Her temper was shorter, her judgment was not quite right, and indistinct and dull. Captain Shufti was like a head cold that lowered your intelligence by 20 points. With something approaching anger, she sawed again at the lock. This time, with improved technique and determination, she got halfway through the metallic silver loop, but it was at the expense of her arms, which were now spent. She gave up and returned to her laptop. Waiting was an email from Horace. Amanda put her fingers to the keyboard to reply to the email. With a single line written, she stopped, deciding instead to call Horace on the phone. "Hello, Horace," said Amanda. "It's me. I've hit a blank wall with the missing person, Roger Skye story." "The readers really love those Nick Dunn stories," waxed Horace, "and it's not tailing off. Their appetite for those stories is insatiable. I can't praise you enough. The revenue from online advertising is making all the difference. I was talking to the big boss. I can't say anything for sure, but I got the impression she was thinking of giving you a bonus, provided, that is, the Nick Dunn stories keep coming, and I'm sure they will. You've done a sterling job so far." "Never mind that," said Amanda, annoyed. "Fine. Nick Dunn's a cash cow. Moo, moo. Here comes the cow. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this missing person story. I was contacted by a friend of his. He was real big on the internet dating leads to stolen kidneys angle." "Yeah," said Horace doubtfully. "I saw that one you wrote yesterday. Failed to trend on social media. We were getting country-wide hits and some international traffic, but overall the numbers were low for that story." "The entire paper can't be dedicated to Nick Dunn," said Amanda. "Yes, it can," said Horace. "I'm looking into doing a multimedia collage." "Anyway," said Amanda, "I was contacted by a source who arranged to meet me in a coffee lounge, but they never showed. There was something funny about it, but I followed it up anyway. It's hard to tell if they ever planned to talk with me, or maybe just a case of cold feet." "I know what you're like," said Horace. "This is not your old investigative reporting job. We need volume. Lots of articles about stuff, not you writing for weeks and weeks about some grand kidnapping conspiracy with innards sold on eBay. And you know that door I was telling you about," continued Amanda. "I don't know where it leads, but it has a padlock on it. It's bugging me. I've tried every key I can find, so I've tried to saw it off with a hacksaw." "A door?" said Horace. "Who cares? I want you creating content for this news website, not trying to break into rooms in your own home." "This place is driving me insane," said Amanda. "You don't know what it's like. You're only here a couple of days. This place is nowhere, and I do mean nowhere. I want to go home. Make me a sub-editor or something. Just get me out of here." "The local council is meeting tomorrow," said Horace firmly. "Forget about the door, the missing person guy, and all that other crap you've dreamt up to amuse yourself. You're here to grind out local stories. It's Captain Shufti. Don't go looking for excitement. You won't find it." Mistress Vania did not have a watch. Her red latex suit did not have pockets, so instead she'd put her smartphone down the side of her knee-high boots. She took out the phone and checked the time. "That's long enough," said Mistress Vania, putting the phone back into her left boot. "He's been wrapped up long enough, and to be honest, I'm getting bored with the whole process. I was hoping we could punish him while we waited for the mineral clay to have its effect. However, it seems pointless to beat him with all that wrapping." "It's like a health spa," said Roger. "I feel like I'm getting the Hollywood treatment. I feel very A-list celebrity." "So far your A-list credentials exist only in your ability to be annoying," said Mistress Vania. "We already have changed jobs, Riko. This whole session bears no resemblance to what we would normally do. It's not playing to our strengths. I don't feel like me." "Well, I definitely feel reduced," said Roger. "If I was in an infomercial, I'd say I felt slimmer, more attractive, and invigorated. Then I'd say, it really works." Riko took the last of the bandages off. They lay on the floor in a large grubby pile. There seemed to be so much more bandages when they were not neatly rolled. A thin layer of mineral clay was all over Roger's body, which turned a pale grey when it came into contact with the air and dried. Riko wiped Roger down with a wet sponge and a towel. Again, the measuring of the waist, arms and leg circumferences were done by Riko, Mistress Vania noting down the new measurements. Mistress Vania enjoyed mental arithmetic. It was a simple matter to her to do the subtraction and total the difference. "In total, including your torso and limbs," said Mistress Vania, sounding surprised, "you have been reduced by a total of 7 inches. This is most mysterious. We must now weigh him again. It is possible that the reducing effect is more than just loss of fluid." In the corner was a very heavy industrial scale. It was low on the ground, measuring 3 feet in length and 5 feet in width. It was used for weighing freight. It was very accurate and could measure up to 600 pounds. This made it ideal for weighing Roger. On the front right of the scales was a large display with bold yellow digits. Mistress Vania had started weighing Roger regularly. She had read an interview in the financial press about a top executive who had stated that you cannot improve what you cannot measure. A lighter Roger was a better Roger, but she needed regular measurements over time to prove this was happening. "He is no lighter," said Riko, excited by the counterintuitive discovery. "We measured him this morning. How is it possible?" "How can it be he reduced in size and yet is no lighter?" said Mistress Vania, looking accusingly at Roger. Mistress Vania looked at her notes and then looked at the reading on the scale. "You've actually gotten heavier," she said. "We haven't given you anything to eat or drink. How are you doing this? Have you been drinking gallons of water?" "No," said Roger calmly. "Are you sure?" said Mistress Vania, stepping forward and looking coldly into Roger's eyes. "Remember the bandage wrap is off. If you are lying to me, I'll punish you." "I just spent all that time wrapped up like a mummy," pointed out Roger. "If I had drunk a lot of water, don't you think I would have needed to pee?" "He must have absorbed the mineral clay," said Riko, looking almost admiringly at Roger. "It's supposed to draw out toxins. But instead," finished Mistress Vania, "he seems to have essentially assimilated that mud into his body." "Cool," said Roger, holding out his reduced arms. "Someone told me I was fat as mud. Now I really am. This is awesome." "This is ridiculous," shouted Mistress Vania, throwing her arms in the air. Her eyes shone with an anger equal to that of the shine on her red suit. Again, she turned her back on them and ascended the stairs.